Yes.
Roll call show that all committee members are here. Approval of agenda. So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Public participation as it comes. Approval of minutes from the last meeting.
Make a motion.
Second. Okay, motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Any discussion on that? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, carried. Discuss and or act on modifying the reclamation plan, Seven Sisters gravel pit.
Okay, so I think in my notes there, you guys probably hopefully have a chance to look at that. Milestone reached out. They're inquiring about some modifications and changes to the reclamation plan and what they would like to do at the quarry at the Seven Sisters. And these two fine gentlemen are going to help further explain that for us.
Yeah, we have a poster here. Where would you gentlemen like to see it set?
What do you think, members?
I would say where the camera could probably see.
Where the
it.
I'm gonna
camera
say
can
maybe right
see.
in that corner behind you, Mr. Pease.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay. And if I don't, say it incorrectly, I think the gist of, I think what's being considered is lowering the quarry floor. And
That's exactly right.
Okay.
No other changes to the reclamation plan is a very important factor in this request, so.
So-
I got about a maybe 5-minute spiel, if you guys will allow me that. And there's my notes. Lucas, thank you.
if you gentlemen could help me, help our online folks, I do have the reclamation plan attached here.
Excellent.
And let's see if I can get it to. Is that kind of similar to?
Yeah, this mimics that reclamation plan, although that reclamation plan was not put together with all of the information that we know about the site from our test boring. So what this yellow footprint does is it mimics what the reclamation plan has on it, but it's more true to the limits of the high rock as best we can estimate them. The mining here is going to focus and stay in the area where the bedrock is high. And that's this shape that you're seeing. You can see that it mimics that shape on the screen as well. That's a little, it doesn't take into detail all the information we know about the top of the hard rock that we're mining in. This does that more so it mimics that, but it comes in places and it in fact also bulges out in places relative to that, because we don't want to go mining or creating that lake anywhere where there's not high bedrock. So that's what this yellow shape is showing, if you can see it. And then below here, I apologize, the lines are pretty thin, but this is a cross section taken along the pink line. So this is the left hand of the cross section. Here's the right hand of the cross section. And this is a cross section that is 1-to-1 scale. There's no vertical exaggeration here. So you can see pretty much what the lake or what the proposal is asking for. And as a matter of fact, as I see people squinting out there, I'm just going to hand that cross section out and the map as well. So I don't know if I have 5 or 6 of these. Reclamation or the cross section down back, if you want to refer to that. I have 6, great. So they can see in better detail. And if there aren't any further questions, I could deliver just a little bit of a presentation. Okay, so introductions first. I'm Bob Service. I'm a geologist with Milestone Materials, and we're a division of Matthew Construction, and we're headquartered out of Onalaska, Wisconsin. With me is Lucas Kohner. Lucas is area manager for Milestone Materials, and he's the area manager in charge of operations at the Seven Sisters Quarry. Also here today via the Zoom broadcast is another Milestone geologist, Bob Jewell is here. Bob's waving, and Bob was previously the geologist for the Kramer Company, who was the previous operator of the quarry, as you all know. We're here today to request a modification of the reclamation plan to allow for an additional 60 feet of mining below the current approved quarry floor. And you can see that in the cross section. Again, the scale is 1:1, so you can see what the proposal is. 938 line showing on there. So a little bit of history about the site for any of you that would like a refresher. We understand that the quarry began operations in the early 1900s and that it's grandfathered use in the towns of Rome and Leola. In 2003, the original NR 135 reclamation plan was put in place for the quarry, and that reclamation plan called for a 27-acre public access recreational lake with a boat landing. Since 2003, reclamation plan went in place. The Kramer Company has operated the quarry under an operating agreement with Adams County. Once the Kramer Company got into the quarry a little bit, they discovered that the static water level of the proposed reclamation lake would be in fact at an elevation of 1,020, where the 2003 reclamation plan had it at 1,048. So because of that discovery in 2019, the Kramer Company and Adams County modified the reclamation plan the first time to allow an additional 30 feet of mining. And that lowered the floor to the current 998. And that is a level of about 22 feet below the estimated 1020 static water level of the quarry. And then most recently in 2020, Matthew Milestone purchased the Kramer Company, and we've been operating the quarry since that time under the existing operations agreement with Adams County. Part of why we're here has to do with the geology of the site. Since we've gotten in there, we've encountered 4 different rock types at the quarry. On top, there is a sandstone, which is low quality. We generally waste that or treat that as an overburden. And then below the sandstone, you get into harder, older bedrock types, of which there's a quartzite, which is a metamorphic rock type, started as a sandstone. And below the quartzite, there's what they call a metaarcose, which is another metamorphic rock. It started as a different kind of sandstone than the quartzite did. And then below that, we see that there's a granitic intrusion that came and intruded into those quartzites and metamorphous rocks. Let's see, make sure I don't skip anything here. So just this last year, mining has finally extended to that lowest approved floor of 998. And as mining has done that, we've encountered more of this consistently hard, dark granite ledge. And that has opened up new possibilities in terms of aggregate products. The consistency and the quality of that bottom bench of material is what it takes to make certain high quality aggregate products, paving stone, asphalt and concrete paving stone specifically require that quality and that consistency that we encountered down there. We've also done test borings at the site, as I mentioned, and those test borings indicate that we should be expecting that hard, consistent granite to be present in this lower requested bench at the site. So that's part of why we're here. And so Lucas, having encountered the higher quality, deeper benches, has asked about gaining access to the deeper bench that we're asking for here. And the reasons for that would be to improve the quality at the site. And number two, to increase the recoverable reserves at the site substantially. In terms of quality, as I mentioned, the upper bench has variable quality because of the different rock types, but also there's varying degrees of weathering in the upper bench, which make it hard for us to produce those high quality, high spec aggregate products. Asphalt and concrete paving stones. So the requested subfloor bench would enable us to make those products because of its consistency as that granitic rock type and the hardness that we've encountered. In terms of quantity, access to the subfloor bench would nearly double the existing recoverable reserves at the site, increasing the total by an additional about 4.5 million tons is what we would estimate. So for the current royalty rate of the operating agreement, which is 99.5 cents per ton, we'd expect the reserve increase to represent about $4.48 million in today's dollars, just in royalties to Adams County. And that doesn't account for the additional savings from transportation and road performance savings that would come from the additional high quality materials. We estimate that the subfloor reserves will increase the lifespan of the quarry by an additional 38 years at the current rate of extraction. We think this is especially significant in this particular area because similar, consistent, high quality deposits are extremely scarce in this area. As a matter of fact, we'd expect to have to travel 17 miles one way north to Wisconsin Rapids to find similar high quality and high consistency deposits, or we'd have to travel one way about 60 miles to get down to Baraboo to find similar quantity and consistency and quality. So if we looked at, say, a transportation cost of 30 cents per ton per mile, and we applied that to the full 4.5 million tons, that would be about $23 million to haul the same quantity of material from the Wisconsin Rapids area down to the Seven Sisters location. So we can't underestimate the transportation savings for this additional reserve. And so we think this is the right thing to do to optimize the benefit of the deposit and also the value to Adams County and its residents. We also think it's important to note that post-reclamation land use and aesthetics will not change. It will still be the 27-acre lake. It will still have the 10-20 water level, and we'll still have the whole land and all banks. But we're not proposing to change those at all. And then finally, we've done our own hydro study of this proposal, and we've discovered or determined that recovery will be feasible without adverse effects to nearby wells and surface waters. And that's due to the extremely low hydraulic permeability of that bottom bench that we're asking for. It's essentially impervious to water, so it's not going to produce a lot of water that needs to be pumped out, or a lot of impacts laterally away from the quarry in terms of groundwater levels. So that's what we're here to ask for, and we're happy to answer any questions, and we thank the committee for hearing us.
With that yellow line going around, are you proposing to go farther to take the product out of everything inside that yellow line to go where that high wall is and go back in?
This is our best guess of where the feasible deposit is at this point. Like I said, the hard rock drops off away from the ridge. You all have seen the ridge stands above the landscape. In fact, they're quite elevated above the surrounding flat landscape on top of the hill down here. That ridge is the the Precambrian hard rock we're mining. And as you get below the plain on the north and south side, the bedrock, the hard rock that we're after drops below the surface relatively steeply. And therefore, we don't want to chase that out laterally too far, mainly because of water. If we chase that out too far, the groundwater coming in from the sand and gravel and sandstone eventually would cause issues for dewatering the quarry. And then we would have impacts to nearby wells and surface waters.
So that lower right-hand corner, you're not proposing going down into that area where the yellow,
Right here?
yeah,
Well, this does really mimic quite closely the current reclamation plan. Is just a little different, and I can point this out where it is different. This current reclamation plan, and I don't know why they did this, left a lot of rock right here. And you can see that in the contour is bulging up. In fact, you can see the 1140 contour right there. That's 120 feet above the lake level. And so we think that should probably come out because of the quantity of material there and for the safety conditions around the lake.
that's what I'm looking at is there, when the reclamation plan comes, that there won't be those high walls. Typically that, you know, that everybody worries about, that somebody's gonna be going out and diving off of them or.
And high walls are allowed to be left. In fact, they're built into part of this reclamation plan. For instance, you can see high walls here, and there will be high walls all around here. Those will be high walls.
Okay.
But there are slopes with a safety slope here. You can see that thick band there and there. Those are two safety slopes that are set at the water level for safe, probably beach park type access to the lake. And then there's a boat landing up here that has a specified slope for bringing the boats into the water. So we're not proposing to change any of these bank dynamics, although they will be hard to achieve from an operational standpoint. This is a little bit of a glorified reclamation plan, and it exceeds to a certain extent the requirements of NR 135, which is Wisconsin's reclamation ordinance. But I imagine that was done with input from Adams County. So we're not proposing to tamper with that. Although, like I said, it's hard to achieve in reality. It's one thing to draw on paper, achieving it in reality is quite a project for Lucas here. But we're not proposing to change that. We're just proposing within the white to
Drop to lower it.
and it'll be a below water high wall at that point. And it'll just increase the depth of the lake once you get to that 20-foot depth or 22-foot depth. Rather.
If we vote no on this, say we don't want this to happen, when would that turn into the lake? How many years?
It'd probably be about 40 years.
And this will make it longer, or it'll still be?
That'll make it about double. Now we're talking about 5 to 8 years.
And my other question is have you checked from the housing or people's properties before this all started, as far as the groundwater or their wells and stuff? Has it changed at all in what they've done so far?
We haven't checked, and we don't expect there to be any impact because of, number one, the nature of the deposit. It's a very tight bathtub, tight rock, tight, and we just now started to penetrate below that 1020 elevation. For the longest time, the floor hasn't penetrated below that 1020.
It's into the water.
We're just getting into it, yes.
Obviously, when you get into that, you're gonna be pumping water. Where does the, I mean, it's a pretty good sized area. When you start dropping pumps in, where does the outlet for the water you're pumping, where's that water discharged to?
Lucas can speak probably more specifically, and this is an old aerial. This is from 2020. Things are a little bit different right now, but Lucas, correct me if I'm wrong, it's up in this area.
Yeah, so we right now, we drop a pump in, we let it fill all the way back up in the winter time, and we have to start from the very north end. Sort of way out, the deepest sump hole is right here, and then we drop a foot, hose over the edge right now, and we're making a grab ball, so it drains a little nicer. then it kind of settles out in this area over here and just goes in and over time is what's always happened.
Doesn't make it the cricks or streams.
There's a DNR permit, it's a Wisconsin pollution discharge elimination system permit for our discharge water that specifies the quality that it has to meet before it can go off site.
So we test it every time. We have to do it once a quarter. Every time we have to send a sample and get tested to make sure it's clean enough.
Are you, okay, go ahead.
So I'm sorry, I was just gonna add, so actually in this area where we're talking about Seven Sisters Quarry in that block, there's actually not a moving creek that passes through this property. So when we are dewatering, we don't get water out on County O. So it is infiltrating once it leaves the site.
This is Bob Jewell talking here. And it's important to notice also that the water doesn't leave any of the property that's owned by the Adams County Highway Department. I've watered that site, been involved with that for probably better part of 20 years. And I've walked around where that, because, you know, there's been concerned neighbors in the past, and Pat's right. There's kind of a bowl where the water gets dewatered to, and it stays on all the property owned by Adams County Highway Department, and it doesn't get to any creeks or it doesn't make it out to County Highway as well. So
I know there's a problem with the people that live around there, the time of day you're gonna be doing this. And holidays, weekends, whatever, you guys are gonna abide by all that.
No changes to the operation, correct?
So really what Milestone is doing today is kind of throwing out a feeler and getting a consensus of the highway committee, is ultimately the reclamation plan. While I very much appreciate the Milestone, these gentlemen, Bob, attending, this is actually through Land and Water is where the reclamation plan will be accepted or be modified or that type of thing. Now, there is a signature page that I will eventually need to sign off on, but getting the consensus and feeling out process to move forward is what they're really chasing after, I believe, here today.
But am I wrong? And they come to this committee every time they wanna take more out, correct?
They do.
We
The
gotta,
highway committee oversees the mining, and there is, like was mentioned, there won't be any changes to the mining agreement. So there's 100,000, I think it's 100,000 ton cap on. And this committee has done it a few times already. We enter into, they may ask for 100,000 or 200,000 or whatever it might be. So we make a resolution, bring it to this committee, then it goes on the county board. And when that happens, it doesn't automatically necessarily mean that Milestone goes up there and crushes 250,000 ton and sells it all. We do that, Milestone does that in preparation, anticipation of what might come through or be requested for materials out of the quarry. For example, it just recently happened to us at Milestone. County M, we did a resolution for this, was planned to come out of there. It didn't develop. That material, I'm sure, didn't go somewhere else or go to another project. They just didn't crush it. They just didn't sell it. They didn't make it. Now, going forwards, again, County M, we're planning for 2023. We will see that. I'm sure we will see, I imagine we'll see the same request come forward for additional material, because with private sales, other sales, municipalities, private sector, and ourselves, that just exceeds the 100,000 ton. It doesn't, on a 7-mile road project, that doesn't take long. To go ground down.
I assume that being it so close, we should see some savings in that type of material coming out of our quarry.
we,
On bids, you'll see it.
yeah,
Like he says, otherwise you're gonna add in the trucking costs for.
Patrick, does the county share change over time? You said it's at 99.5%.
Yes, it inflates annually according to the producer price index, which is a standard index.
That was
I see no reason why we wouldn't move this forward.
so ultimately what happens then is, you know, there's some work done to make modifications to the reclamation plan. This will go back, these folks, Mr. Jewell and these two gentlemen, I'm sure will end up in front of the Land and Water or P and Z committee, whatever that is now, having these same presentation and requests. And ultimately, they would give it the approval. But it would essentially have the support of the highway committee is what they're searching out.
The way NRI works is the landowner has to sign certification of the plan. So in this case, landowner, we're not able to sign owner certification to this modification request. That is under your control.
So just to continue, I don't want to talk this to death, but because quarries are under the authority of the highway committee by statute, this does not go to full county board. This gets done at the committee level and approved.
What happens if something goes haywire here? And who's liable?
I never would, but ultimately, who's liable?
Good question. Number one, if something were to go haywire and more water would come into the quarry than we expect, we don't expect anyone, because we don't want to mine beyond the rim of hard rock, and that hard rock is low permeability. We don't have any reason to expect this. Let's say water came into the quarry faster and the groundwater impacts expanded away from the quarry, meaning there was a cone of depression in the water table created by the quarry. And let's say that cone of depression reached far enough out where a person with a private well noticed the water level in the well was dropping. Then the thing to do would be to shut the pumps off and things would return to background conditions. So any impacts that are created by this will be temporary and will cease when the quarry stops. So for instance, we don't expect any impacts with the additional bench, but if they were associated with just the additional bench and not the current 998 bench, well, the thing to do then is stop mining below 998 and the rest of the floor. We have one sump that was below to the 938 level, but we'd let that fill back up and that would buffer the surrounding water levels to the same impacts that would have existed for the current 998 approval. So that would be a measure that we could use, is shut this off at any point we were to determine that it's not going the way we planned. We have no reason to expect that. We fully expect being able to dewater this pit to that depth without issue at the point of the nearest wells.
I know I've worked on different projects like this here where we have drained wells and sometimes the contractor, we put wells in for people to go deeper or set up something for them temporarily until we were done pumping water. If we had to put a well in, we put a well in. That's just what you have to do, be good neighbors with everybody. Like it says there, with the high wall, keeping that high water like that, you don't expect anything like that, but I mean, sometimes things happen, and I've probably seen 6, 8 different kinds of wells that we put in for people at different times in different parts of the state, just because of things that just go awry for nobody's. I mean, I guess it's the contractor's fault, but we've always had to make it right because you have to be good neighbors.
So it's constantly monitored.
Yeah, we would know, we have monitoring of our dewatering volumes, so we know how much we pump out. If we ever saw more than we expected going out of there, then we could have reason to suspect our model's not accurate and we have to adjust the model and relook at, could there be bigger impacts?
What financial security does the county have? For
You
You
know
know,
what's held in there?
There's a, if you scroll, that didn't change in this modification. Well, I have it right here.
What I was talking about, we needed that last change.
I want to say it was,
This is Bob Jewell again. There's financial sureties for the reclamation plan, but there's also in the operators agreement that we're required to have a certain amount of insurance in case something. I don't know if you have the operators agreement there also, Pat, but there was requirements for that, for in case some damages were done, that we were required to have a certain amount of liability insurance also.
I think that's in the reclamation plan.
That's in the operating.
oh, in the operating agreement? Yeah, I do have that operating agreement. I don't have it open here and I don't want to guess what the number is.
well,
I'll
you
be
don't
wrong.
need to, I mean, I knew that there was something, I just.
I can-
Does that increase annually too, or how is that maintained so that?
That does not increase annually. It's a 10-year operating agreement, so it'll be renegotiated or re-proposed by the county at that point. And I have the limits here that we're required to maintain for general liability. And there's 2 million general aggregate, 2 million products aggregate, 1 million personal injury, 1 million each occurrence, 300,000 fire, 10,000 medical per person. And then there's
Get that up and running.
Yeah, it's not very much.
auto liability, 1 million, excess liability, 5 million each occurrence, umbrella, 5 million aggregate, workers' comp, 100,000 each accident, 500,000 disease policy limit, and 100,000 disease each employee. And that's all that's listed.
Pat, could sometimes we go out there and take a look at this? I have no idea even where it's at, you know, I know the general area, but somebody said there's fencing all around it, or
There is not.
there will be.
There will be fencing included as part of the reclamation plan, but currently today, there's not fencing. And, as far as a site visit, are you asking for a meeting or just you and I, or?
Well, it's up to the committee.
Yeah, okay.
I'm familiar with it, so,
Yeah, I've been able to.
you know, and I've been out there several.
We did a site visit, I think it was in 2019, when Casey was manager.
I did that drone flight for that, where I took Pix-40 and made a 3D model of it. Here, 3-4 years ago, 3 years ago.
I could have changed, but it's
Yeah.
No doubt has changed over time.
We need a motion to move this forward, and got to act on it to give it the,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of,
make a motion that we approve the revised reclamation plan to move forward.
I second.
Motion made, seconded to approve it. Is there any more discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
So, I missed the second. So if we could have a bit more discussion and maybe Bob, I think Bob and I were part of this last time. We did the revisions to the reclamation plan. And so how it worked last time, Bob, was that, right, I think actually the county took the burden of the reclamation and had our engineer redo the reclamation plan. Then it was adopted at that time by Kramer and so forth. So you remember that process that way? Bob, as
Yeah.
well?
Yes, that's the way I remember it. I think this time is a little simpler. I don't know if you could maybe attach this as a addendum to that plan, because I think that's a good plan. I don't think we have to reinvent the whole plan here. And I think Milestone or Matthew would prepare those documents at no charge to the county. I think it would just be, like I say, be an addendum to that plan that was done just a couple of years ago. And for you that are wondering why are we back so soon, you know, Matthew did some core drilling here that really gave us a clearer picture of the geology of this site. And that's really the reason why we're back here asking for the 60 additional feet. So, but Pat, yeah, I think I don't know if we have to have the county bear the brunt of going back to SEH and having them prepare things by a professional engineer again. I think that might be a little bit overkill here. Bob did a hydrogeologic study here per Chuck Sabilski requested that. And I think if we can give some assurances about the quantity and the quality of the groundwater for the area, I think that'll rest assured to give some solace to the neighboring public too. So, and with our liability insurance, it might be something to revise in 5 years when we got to update the operating agreement. But if people think that it's a little light, we could always update that in the next 5 years from now. So.
And you're really not changing any of the slopes around it, other than you're just making that high vertical down deeper. So you're not changing anything hardly outside the.
Exactly, it'd be a very simple addendum request, and it would probably be a letter request to Land and Water Conservation, and it would say the slopes would stay the same down to the 998 elevation, below which there'd be vertical high walls below to the new of 9. That's honestly all that NR 135 would require to be adhered to. So Milestone can do that, and it could save the time, effort of going through a consultant to have that done.
Okay, I just wanted to get that out there, because I know we went through that last time. Really now, you mean, the highway committee, it kind of has already gone on record and said, yeah, they're in agreement to move forward in favor of it. And so I think your hurdles and your real work now starts with Land and Water and Chuck and getting the supporting documents that they will be meeting.
Exactly. We can take this now through with Land and Water and Chuck, and then we'll be back for your signature, Pat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, Bob.
Welcome. You got that, Lucas? Thank you.
All right, move on to the next one, review and act on truck equipment.
Did you finish the vote?
Yeah, you were seconded it.
No, I know, but did,
I called for you. Yes.
oh, you told
He had to do it after.
Yeah, I added a little bit on track. If you guys voted.
oh, yeah, I thought.
So I did mark the vote as unanimous. I just threw that before you go. You got it, correct? Truck equipment. And we'll move on. We'll get back on track here. Truck equipment. So this is a truck equipment, exactly what it sounds like. I should say Gary did a lot of work on this. Gary's sitting in the back of the room with us. He is our shop superintendent and oversees the shop operations. And I asked him to sit in with us here today And so what you're looking at is all the equipment that we would put on the new truck. So it essentially includes the asphalt, stainless steel asphalt box. Let's see. The plow, of course, the wing would be part of that. Underbody, all the hydraulics, all the lighting, all the wiring. It also will include, it's called Storm Extreme. It's a slip-in. So when winter comes, the stainless steel box stays on the truck. We pull the tailgate, and this unit, this Storm Extreme unit, would slide inside the box. That unit, they are costly, but it is the maximum amount of liquid and the maximum amount of rock salt that we can find on the market right now. So it's scheduled to carry 1,700 gallons of liquid and still carry about 8.5 tons of rock salt. Now, you heard us talk about liquid, and I had come back from, I think Mr. Pease and I were at a meeting, and I was all on board. I come back and I told our guys, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get a liquid truck only. So we called around again, talked to some other counties, and they said, yeah, well, yeah, most of the time it works. Well, okay. That makes us not as energetic about it. When it gets down to cold temperatures, even the state of Wisconsin, we talked to some of the folks at the state of Wisconsin, and they said mostly liquid. You might need to go back out and hit certain areas with rock salt. Well, that logistically, that just doesn't jive very well for us. So we kept searching, and ultimately Gary found us this option here with this Storm Extreme setup. Storm Extreme it can do multiple things. And I'm talking quite a bit, and Gary's nodding his head at me.
You're doing fine.
Because he really did the research on this and shared it with the other 4 or 5 of us internally here and our guys as well. But Storm Extreme will produce more of a paste, if you want it to, as opposed to a rock salt. I think you've all seen rock salt come out of a truck. It'll hit the road, 3 kernels will stay and 5 will go in the ditch. This here is more of a, like I say, more like a paste, like an oatmeal. We can make it, the machine will produce that. And it'll come out through, Gary, what's the technical term of this spinner that they have on there?
Direct cast.
Direct cast spinner. Direct cast spinner on this unit sits in the middle of the truck. It sits in the middle of the truck and it has a housing around it. I guess I'll call it a housing or a hood or a lid. And so that material will only be cast or directed out the opening wherever you have it. So the operator can change that from the cab. If he wants to shoot, if he wants to lane salt, and he can, shoot it behind the truck. If he wants to shoot it towards center line, well, then he'll divert it towards center.
It's got a directional nozzle on it, is that?
For the rock salt.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, it'll also be set up with high capacity liquid. So with 1,700 gallons on the truck, you don't have to put rock salt down. You can spray liquid only with 1,700. And 1,700 gallons, we actually used to anti-ice with a smaller unit than this. So 1,700 gallons will go quite a ways if we choose to just spray liquid on that route. It can be used for that. So we're not only thinking about winter storms, but we can foresee us using this to anti-ice as well. So before a storm comes, you would see us making the white lines out on the roads with this truck as well.
That would just be the brine, it wouldn't be the
Paste, yeah, just be the brine, the liquid portion of it, yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of the Storm Extreme portion of it. I don't know if I can talk a great deal. It's a stainless steel paver box. Plow, wing, underbody, LED lighting. We are setting the truck up with We plan to set the truck up with forward and rear facing camera.
Now, this is a truck we've already said yes to. You're just telling us what you want to upgrade on it?
Well, you're going to spend more money today, I hope.
Well,
You bought the truck.
right.
You bought the truck.
That's
this
what
committee
that's
did.
what we're going about right now, okay.
The truck's in the yard here, actually, if you guys want to see it, sitting out back. What we're talking about today is just the equipment and the placement of the equipment on that truck. So that's what I'm talking about, buying all these items, the plow, underbody, wing, paver box, Storm Extreme, so forth. So this is the vendor that we've been talking to. This is the vendor, actually, this is the only vendor that makes this size that has the capacity here today. Everybody else in the industry is, I think, 1,300 max on liquid. So this vendor here is the only one that has currently this quantity available. I'm just paging through this. There's a whole, they go through each of the items on here on their estimate that they provided. I'm just trying to get down to the bottom here. So this is through Sourcewell. This has already been competitively bid through another government agency. So by doing that, there's pros and cons to it. We were able to get a deduct or a decrease on the Storm Extreme. But then there was a slight charge to Sourcewell to do it. So 10% decrease on the Storm Extreme. Then there was a 2% charge or a 2% increase, I guess, if you say you will. So ultimately, we ended up with about an 8% decrease on the Storm Extreme equipment. So I'm just trying to page down to the bottom. So I asked, they put this together. I don't know if you guys want Gary and I to go through this. We certainly can, but it is fairly inclusive about what we're buying. And I did mention this is through Sourcewell, so this is the one that we have to look at. And when you get down to the bottom here, you can see it's a $263,000 bill. But I also ask that you just keep in mind for a second, that does include mounting and out the door costs. We're talking about a stainless steel paver box. They just don't hand those away anymore like they once do. Why? I mean, we buy a lot of stainless storm equipment. We are keeping our trucks now 20+ years that we're trying to keep them on the road. We had standard steel before, and we'd have, I mean, you guys can imagine, we had holes in cabs, we had holes in doors, we had holes in boxes. Stuff was rotting out. So quite a few years ago, we converted to stainless. Costs a little more. I think there's a few less repairs on it long term. And it does obviously last long. So what's the time frame on this? Again, it's not something they just deal out. Actually, the worst part of this, Gary, if I'm saying it correct, is the hydraulics and electrical components. 6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months for hydraulics.
So it's not something that's gonna happen.
The only way he said it would happen is if somebody's equipment that matched ours was sitting there and they had a delay on their truck. They could sub us in, but he says more than likely not.
So we're looking basically at spring.
So is that truck gonna be available to do anything during that period of time, or they gotta have it pristine in order to put that in there?
The truck that we have is just a chassis. We have nothing.
Well, okay.
It's just a cab and tires.
Okay.
It drives down the road and it looks pretty, and that's about it. We can't haul anything, we can't tow anything, we can't plow anything. But we have the truck. That's a plus. Many, not to get off topic here, but some of the counties, some of the truck vendors, they just canceled. This year, they just can't, they said we can't deliver, and they canceled their order. thinking back to our budget, remember I took the truck out because of this. We don't have it yet, and I'd like to put it on the road and try it before we do anything further with another vehicle similar to this or like this. So,
What would be the cost if we didn't do it?
the cost would be about $110,000 chassis sitting in the yard that I could sell.
You
were
gotta-
saying-
we gotta put something on it.
Right.
So-
That's what I'm saying though. I mean, what would be if we didn't go this, I'm taking this top of the line.
This is a good unit, yeah, this is probably, yeah, it is the top of the line, the Storm Extreme is the top of the line for the industry as far as it goes as volumes and capacities, right? It's the maximum volume of liquid and the maximum volume of rocks.
It occurs to me that that's the only thing that might be in question of what you're gonna do is the Storm Extreme slip. The rest of it you need. I mean, so
Yeah.
I don't think this needs a ton of debate. I mean, all the rest of it you need, so you can use the truck.
All the other component, right, yeah,
Right, none of it's gonna get any cheaper.
No,
The price of materials and the length of time to get materials is going up every day.
You know, if we've got a locked in price, that's
Like Pat says, when you're keeping trucks as long as what.
20 years.
what would be the cost, is I think what Mr. Pease is trying to ask me is what would it cost me if I just, so for example, what we do with a few other trucks here is we call them slip-ins or slide-ins. It's a similar I don't even want to call it a similar version, it's not the same. So it's a V-box and it slides in the back of the truck and it goes down the road. I don't know what a V-box spreader would cost today, and I don't want to start guessing on numbers because I will be wrong. Things are more expensive now than they were way more.
Just a few months.
more expensive.
So if we were to replace this exact same truck, how many years would it be before we would buy another truck with all this on it?
If the committee opts to build this truck, how long would we keep this unit?
No, how long before, we're eventually gonna replace them all, you know, what is the cycle of a truck like this?
This truck's probably, again, in that 20, this one should be 22 to 25 year
And
plus.
they do, not to interrupt, but they do make smaller versions of this Storm Extreme. Where if we only wanted to do a tandem or a single, we can get shorter versions. I believe it's 10, 12, and 14, and then this one would be the 16 foot. So if this works for us, we decide to go this route, we can get different versions of this, or we can go with some other stuff.
No more questions.
So I'll just keep talking for a second. It's expensive, I know it is. It's a scary number to me. Sherry's brought it up to me before. How's this work? This money that's coming out of here is not it's not a levy dollar, it's not a GTA dollar. It comes out of our machinery account. And that's how we pay for these types of things. Machinery account today, now it will change, but for example, our machinery account today is at $1,007,000. We got to pay for the truck, so there's going to be 100,000 come out of there. We got to pay for something to go on this new truck, so that'll come out of there. I guess ultimately what I'm saying is there's money there. I historically have a machinery account to a point where it scares me because we could find ourselves needing to replace the truck. It happens. We had one catch on fire right out in the front yard and we couldn't save it. It burned up. So it does happen. Don't not advocate, but that one just, the hosing worked right. It started on fire and we couldn't get it out.
This isn't gonna affect anything that we need down.
That's what I'm gonna, I still wasn't gonna ask that question, but I was gonna ask the same thing.
Nope. So.
There isn't like this, like a loader or anything, or
Well,
that's gonna sacrifice.
oh, So, yes and no, we always move our asset replacement schedule around. We always look at it. I make changes to it and I have to answer to those to Gary. He'll say he likes it or he doesn't like it, but have we moved things around just because of this? No. We move things around because, one, I didn't want to buy a truck before I could put it on the road and prove it to myself and everybody else that's going to do what it should. And then not knowing exactly the asset replacement schedule, there are a couple of things coming up in there. Big purchases for us, and they've gone up. Backhoe, rubber tire backhoe, our machine's got 12,000.
Yeah, just shy of 12,000.
Just shy of, just shy of 12,000 hours on it, so we gotta fit that in there somewhere. That's a big cost. When I do that, or when the highway department does that, you're not going to see me advocate for another truck, because I'm not going to run my machinery count down that low in fear of something happens. I need money to buy something right now, and it might not be exactly what we want. But if I can find something on a lot, at least we'd have a truck.
Gary, have you actually physically seen this whole system?
Yes, we went to lacrosse. I went to lacrosse myself twice, and then I went with the other two patrol suits another time. And there is actually on YouTube, there's videos of the direct cast spinner lacrosse. They have currently 5 of them right now. They have 3 more on order. There was another company down south I talked to. They are operating 3 of them. So they are out there, they've been out there. The reason this is called a Storm Extreme, there is another version of this. The reason they developed this one is it's a little bit cheaper than the first version that come out. Because the first version was all stainless with poly tanks, where the tank, the 1,700 gallon tanks are now poly. And it's easier to get the poly than it is for them to build the stainless manufacturer.
I think they had a demonstration.
They seen
You know,
any
like,
issues with it?
The only thing that, there
They
was an
had to have
issue when
the-
I discussed it with them was
Yeah.
lacrosse county with that direct cast spinner. They did not like the first version of it. And when I talked to Henderson, directly, they have made an updated version, and hence I opted for the additional warranty for it. If there's a problem with it, just to replace it. Since the second and third version have been out there, there hasn't been any problems with it, so.
So are them, warranty dollars added into that total price?
Right, so if we're thinking about doing something or making motions here, just to understand everything, like Mr. Pease just mentioned, that stuff on the options down below, those are add-ons, and that we get on top of that 263. So Gary had mentioned about warranty on the direct cast spinner. $500, and
You know,
Yeah, it's a no brainer.
I don't
and that
know.
bolt, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but the bolt-on option that's a foil on top of the plow. This truck is equipped with, is spec'd with rubber blades. And we ran some samples of rubber blades last year, and we noticed a bunch of salt and residue getting in the radiator. So this is supposed to take care of it. Universal has not sold this setup in about 3 years. They suggested one with a longer flap. I would not right now go with that airfoil on the plow, just to try on this new setup, how it's gonna work. We can always get it bolted on later.
Or we can take the blades off, put something.
Or we can take the rubber blades off, and put regular blades on. But the $1,500 for the Storm Extreme, that covers the entire sliding unit, which has a lot of
So-
electronics, a lot of hydraulics.
So can we pass, can we say that, it's up to your discretion whether, what 3 of those options you want added to the?
I think we can, I think I can.
No?
I think I can write the motion however you folks would like to have it worded. I mean, if you want to buy the equipment and options, 3-year warranty on Storm Extreme, 3-year warranty on direct cast, I'll word it that way.
Okay.
Or
And what's your,
I'll make the motion to
purchase the 263 what they had.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to move ahead with the program and include the 3-year warranties. Is there any more discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. I think we're doing the right thing, guys. Back on blade proposals.
Right, gentlemen, blades. It's exactly what they sound like. They're blades for winter maintenance. And we have 3 proposals here that Gary actually searched out. I say we, but Gary did this work. They are, how do I want to say, it's a complete bid. So you will notice that one company may have a blade that's cheaper than the next. You're not able to pick and choose. The companies have indicated that it's all inclusive. We get all of it or we get none of it. So don't buy my cheap blade and then ignore my a little bit pricier blade. So, I mean, the cheapest by a couple bucks is Burke, and we bought blades through Burke before. We bought them through Grays. We bought them through Universal.
They're all basically the same blade. I mean, there's nothing.
So we've asked them to quote on the blade, on the description that's on the left side. So yeah, they gotta make 4-foot curved carbide underbody. So that specifically goes on their underbodies. Or like a 12-foot cover. You gotta make that 12-foot cover.
I guess there's too much to discuss there, and we go with the low bid. I make a motion, we go with the Burke quote and.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to go with Burke's proposal. Is there any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. See whether there's any difference other than $2 in cost.
They're
They
both,
figure they're gonna be able, everything available when you need it.
yep, it'd be approximately 5 weeks. We have enough in inventory right now. This is basically to replace what we used last year.
Yeah.
And I took an effect if we have a bad winter, we didn't have too bad last year.
No.
So we should be okay. Should be good. They both have the same amount of carbide in them. Same dimensions, same drill patterns, they're basically the same blade. Just
It just went down by 50,000.
That should be it. Okay, discuss and act on committee selection for County J, Little Rush Creek Creek Bridge.
Right, you guys remember County Truck Highway J, by Spot in the Woods, that's where we're talking, that bridge out there. That fell under the sufficiency rating for replacement, so we have been recently given the go-ahead to start the process. One of the things we need to do is establish a committee that's going to review the consultants and make that selection. When you get ready to do this, I will have one. I presume it's going to be the highway committee. Once you give me different direction, I can make a different committee. I'll have more information for you on how you need to make your selection. It cannot be based on price. That'll be the last thing that you discuss with the consultant. It'll be based on their interview, their qualifications that they provide to you. But what I need to do is set up a committee so the state of Wisconsin knows that we have that ready. And then what I'll do is I'll send, there's a couple different ways we gotta do it. We can either send it to the entire DOT list, or I can send it to a minimum of 10 design consultants for consideration.
I'll make a motion that the highway committee be the committee to select the bridge project.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to go ahead with the committee. Is there any more discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Would we go as far as saying that you would want to keep the structure the same?
Chair and vice chair.
If these guys are okay with that.
Yeah,
All right. Shouldn't be an arm wrestling.
No.
thing.
Okay, you guys can have. I just had my children.
Discuss and or act on equipment and material disposal to auction.
I mean, the committee chair wants to get going and I'm still have more to talk about. Just one more thing to add in regards to that. When we get to the point with the selection of the consultants, that may require a separate meeting for you to have, as that could get lengthy for you, all of us. So, fair enough.
It's fine with me.
Okay, sorry, sir.
Discuss and or act on equipment and material disposal.
This is where we get the 310,000 back.
Yeah, maybe 310. So equipment disposal, I normally always bring this before the committee as we're getting ready to dispose of equipment. This is stuff that we identified for replacement. It's not up here, folks, so this is,
Yes, highway project.
yeah, this is the CIP form. It's not, it's not an attachment, so. This is stuff that we planned for replacement or disposal. So what we have is a pickup. That's pickup number 20. It's got 222,000 miles on it, I believe, right in that neighborhood. I left all my notes in the other room, Sherry. I did a nice job gathering all the information I left in there. It's a 90.
It's pretty much.
2000.
planets are.
2008, I believe it is, 222,000 miles. It's rusted. It's
That's
It's
where your
used-
truck's going next.
well, not yet. Oh, thank you very much. 221,000. It's 2008. It's a quad cab half ton. It still runs. It still goes down the road. It's rusted.
is it still being used?
It's currently, Gary used it yesterday. So, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
We bought one, the intent was one goes out. The other thing that we're disposing of is the patch wagon. Remember, we bought that new patch wagon a while ago. 3-4 months only, we really only had it. But that patch wagon is set to go out to sale. It's a 2006 Spalding. It's a diesel fired hot patcher. No reason to keep it anymore. We have a new one. The old one is used up. We have a small vehicle hoist. You might say that's exactly what it is. It's a car hoist. We originally was put in here probably when we moved in, so it's about 19 plus years old. Not that it's junk, but it's the capacity rating of it won't handle even our pickups anymore. Gary, if I say this correctly, is it slightly tweaked a little bit?
A little bit, the lifting pads are tweaked just a little bit, where it just becomes not, we'll see.
So it's not perfect. If you ever get an idea, it's not perfect when we take it out to sale, and we'll market it that way. So we're proposing to sell that. It's actually already down and sitting on a pallet. We have a hydraulic press that's in the shop here. We actually have a new press on order. We want to get rid of the old one. Vintage age, I referenced it as World War II vintage, and Sherry looked it up for us, and we acquired it in 1994. However, I suspect it did come out of Army surplus, because we didn't pay much for it when we bought it. And presses don't cost that much. So we have one on order. We're proposing to just the old one. We have a hydraulic hose press, and so that's exactly what it is. you can make hydraulic hoses with that. We got Gary can help me with this one a little bit. We switched out and we did that because two reasons that I can remember. One was the clevises or the dies were getting used. And I believe we went to another style fit in.
Went through a Gates type hose where it's smaller, because everything is so constricted under there. And like you said, the dyes are getting bad, when we get up to, 4,000 and 5,000 pounds, where we need a press. This is fully pneumatic. The other one is too, but it does a better job. The smaller hoses, the higher capacity, takes up less room in the truck.
So it's already here. The new press is in operation in the shop. The old one will be sitting on the pallet and be ready for sale. I don't know how to use it, so. We have a set of over the tire skid steer tracks. We will not be mounting those on a skid steer anymore, as we have a track skid steer on order scheduled to come in this month, hopefully. So we want to get rid of those. We won't be using those. And Gary, are those all in one piece usable?
Yes, they are current, and there is some few spare parts, some pads and some pins.
That'll go with it when it goes. Then the other couple things, we normally do old signposts when we get we get a fair amount of knockdowns, breaks, whatever. They go in a pile. We do use those, but we just can't use all of them. Mailbox posts, things like that for winter we save and keep. So we would propose we have some old signposts to go. And then another thing that come up was old tires and brooms. And I believe this come from Gary, Gary, you told me this, I'm not pointing at you, but you're here, so I will.
I've had calls from different farmers, other people inquiring if we would sell our old used tires for like their manure spreaders or the wagons or anything like that, and the brooms. Use them for cattle brushes, you stand them up and scratch. Yeah. So we have a couple of those, try and see what happens.
So we've never done those before. Normally our tires go in a recycle bin, the broom goes in a recycle bin, and we're done. So want to give them a try, we can give them a try. I always would kind of say, we got to be a little bit cautious on how much effort we put into getting it ready as to how much we recover. I mean, if we're selling for $5 and we got, Gary an hour at a time putting it together, that don't add up. And then I would just also say, I'm going to put a little note that says miscellaneous other. I mean, if we find other things that we no longer need or we're not using, I'm not talking about trucks or graders. Miscellaneous stuff. We got a big building. We find stuff down there occasionally. But I think that's my list that I'd like to get rid of in this building. So how we do that is we historically have always sold on Wisconsin surplus, but then we put an ad in the paper to let folks locally know that we have stuff for sale out there. And then it also gets attached to the county website as well. You go online, you can bid there. It's at no cost to the county. All the auction fees are responsibility of the buyer.
We bought stuff from here and it worked out great for me, so.
Yeah.
Any motion on that?
If you would please.
I'll make a motion to sell the miscellaneous equipment in Wisconsin surplus to online auctions.
Okay, motion made and seconded to put all the stuff that Pat's got listed on the auction site. Is there any other discussion? I said the motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I really gotta try to chime in more earlier, right? Historically, we don't put a reserve on our stuff. We sell it. Put it on there to sell. I do have some communication with the auction as it is getting close, and we're not gonna sell a plow truck for $100. All right,
Okay,
thank you.
2022 project status report.
I think it's been up for a while, so not a lot of changes on this document here. I gotta minimize this so I can see it. We did have some costs that we did pay on County Z. We did get a little, we did get a bill in. Certainly not completely paid out by no means. But we did have some costs there. We have not, I don't believe we received one. I didn't see one come through today. We didn't receive a bill this month. So there's no, I didn't change it. On this one here, I guess I can today. The county M one up there, still waiting. We have not received any word. Talked to another commissioner, talked to another engineer, a different engineer. I talked to a different engineer besides Strand, who was working out on County Z. They haven't really heard anything either on when the anticipated rollout will be of awarded projects. So we'll be staying hopeful. And I certainly will let everybody know as well. Comments, questions, anybody? All right.
Okay, move on, highway department operations.
All right, well, we started fall mowing and we have our mowers out on the road. We did some modified bridge repair out on 21. I would just say we did that work. It did not turn out exactly the way everybody was hoping, but we did get a successful or permanent repair done with the structure. We popped a new culvert in, if you guys have been around, just south of 21 on G. Those were failing. So we did replace those. We will need to put a patch in there. Hopefully soon when the plan's scheduled to move in, hopefully next week or two. They say the portable plan will be out by me. We did some more painting for Columbia County, Wapaka County. I got on my little note there, possibly Sauk County, but that did fall through. We will not be doing that painting. They actually, we were scheduled to do about 100 miles for Sauk County. Little miscommunication internally with Sauk County. One supervisor booked Dane County, the other supervisor booked Adams County, and I guess one outranked the other, and they are going to use Dane County, which is it's fine. So we are looking at State Highway 53 painting in Eau Claire and Chippewa County. That's a 4-lane highway up there. We cannot paint that during the day. DOT reached out to us asking for some help. They did reach out to a couple other counties who kind of turned them down, looked the other way, didn't want to do the work. Reached out to us. We said maybe. We actually took the guys, 2 of our guys and Josh, one of our superintendents, went up there, looked at it, met with the DOT, talked it over, and it sounds like we're going to do that painting for it. We will do it at night. We will take our employees up there, do that work, and then come back. We'll likely take 2 attenuator trucks and our paint truck and at least one pickup.
One day or one night?
One evening, yes. That's planned to be one evening. We need to do. Not gonna pretend I know all the details about it. I'm not gonna talk you through this, but we need to do the main line with the exception of the skip line. So both outside edges and the ramps, some of the on ramps and off ramps. The guys said they felt really comfortable about being able to get it done in one evening.
Is this a shared deal?
This is 100% reimbursement deal, so our actual cost, they'll pay our actual cost and equipment time, labor, that's for the state of Wisconsin. In addition, they are supposed to provide the paint and beads to get that. Paint is a little tight. In addition to that, I would note on here that we are making a few revisions, modifications to the Big Flat salt shed site. We're looking at changing quite a few things there, both needed and hopefully make it a little more user-friendly overall. We have a 300 gallon single wall fuel tank there sitting in a containment vessel. That's fine. It kind of works. The problem with it is though, is when it goes empty, we have a hard time getting the fuel vendor to get up there to fill it back up all the time because it is such a small quantity and that might go empty while nothing else here really is empty yet. So we're looking at changing the capacity of fuel up there. Looking at going to 1,000 gallon tank, double wall, fire resistant, 1,000 gallon tank. That tank can sit on its own without a containment vessel. So we have started the research on that. We are making a revision to where we house our salt brine. Right now, we have the tank sitting outside. When you look at our facility up there, there's a lean-to there. It's sided, kind of. When I say kind of, it's plywood, it's getting weathered, and it's starting to warp. So I think we should do something before we lose it all. So we're gonna try to do something with the siding. We're gonna move our tanks inside, get it out of the sunlight. And possibly, most likely, increase the quantity of liquid that we carry there. We have snowplow routes open, so what that means for us is that we have some vacancies in the routes that the guys plow. So when the county is divided up into sections, and there's 9 of those. So we have 2 vacancies right now. They actually are on the south end of the county, but we always will allow those guys that have routes the flexibility to move. If they want a different route, we would allow them to do that. So say for example, a gentleman lives in Big Flats, but he's driving down to Adams County shop and then getting in a truck and going down the south of 82. We have that situation right now. He's doing that work for us. It's likely he might choose to take something up north, and that's fine. We'll let him move around. What I'm saying is that will possibly put 3 trucks up there. Those 3 trucks then are going to be tapping into that fuel tank. It'd be empty in one day. We'd run through that fuel on a wet, heavy snow with 3 trucks running out of there. It would be
300 don't last.
that would be empty.
Does it go by where they live or seniority?
No, it does not go by where you live. It does not necessarily have to go by seniority. It goes by, like I say, those guys, I do take seniority into consideration a little bit when we open it up to the guys that do not have a plow section. So we have some young gentlemen they fill in when guys are gone or sick or whatever. And so we would look at that, take that into consideration. But any one of them right now are new, but the 3 gentlemen are they'll be fine once they get in the truck a little more. We're thinking about doing some changes there. It will include some paving. because we have very minimal hard surface up there. We will need to work with both the town of Big Flats and Land and Water to make that happen, because we'll be adding some impervious surface. And then Big Flats has their own zoning, which we've started reaching out to both of those folks already. So. And I think that's all I really have.
Anything happening with the roof and the shed there at solid waste?
Not yet. So I can't do too much with that until, so we're talking about 2023 budget. So we can't get going too fast. Unless you're telling me one.
No, I didn't know if you had anything to update on that.
Any updates on Z out there?
Yeah, I do actually, Mr. Book. I do have one item that I skipped over because I wanted to step back and see. Sounds good.
Just trying to keep you guessing.
So, yeah, County Z, brief update on County Z, and if I can remember the dates here. Currently, right, a lot of beam guards going in, chain link fence should be going in. Topsoil and restoration items are taking place, so the excavation or the disturbance of large areas is kind of done, and now it's putting things back together and putting the finishing touch on. So that's what's scheduled to take place the rest of this week and predominantly the rest of next week. With addition of next week is scheduled to be the pulverize and relay. Couple guys will know that gravel was dumped on top of asphalt out there. So we talked about this once before. They're scheduled to pulverize that next week and relay it. There are compaction requirements that they need to meet. Both contractor and engineer have already talked about it. How they're gonna do it. So that's scheduled to take place next week, pulverize and relay those areas, as well as red tops are scheduled to start taking place, because the plan is to start paving the week of 18th. So that they plan to start paving the week of the 18th of September. That week, I'm not saying that they're going to be there on Monday. That week, they plan to be in there to start paving, okay? And then, you know, on and on and on. Final completion is what, as of Tuesday, final completion, they're planning for October 14th is the projected completion date for the project. Bike path. We did have, well, one known incident where we had a car go down that bike path, multi-use path, I should call it. Just so happened, Mr. Pease caught it, so didn't the engineer catch it. I asked Ryan about it shortly after I got called. He said, yeah, I saw the same thing. No reason, just turned and went down it. Wasn't any obstruction in the road. That's where they should have been, is not in that bike path.
So in front of the Hiawatha, you know, we never put that out on bids. So they decided to do that then?
No, remember I asked and talked about that? We did, because the dollar amount was so small, I didn't have to.
Okay.
I solicited bids from those two vendors that we had,
Oh,
and they were very cooperative. And they knocked it out.
because I see it was all done. I thought, quickly.
So it got the same, I don't know if it's a good or a bad. I think we did okay. I got the same unit prices in the contract for that spot. The county, I say I, but the county, we will likely get hit with one mobilization cost, because he had to come back. He couldn't do both driveways. He had to come back one time. 200, and he said it would be good. He said 250. I said 150. He said no. It's gonna have to be it's 250 is what he's probably gonna charge for removal. So the restoration across that frontage, will not pay for or be charged for. The contract is going to pay for that. that was disturbed anyway, and if anything, it was a reduction in in the contract, is now our sidewalk. So they paid for that portion.
The one place I kind of looked out there, and it's probably not here nor there, but I look at some of the driveways. I'm just gonna use Wayne Close driveway out there for instance, where he comes out of his driveway, comes up a little bit, and then, and I don't know if the saw cut joins back there further, but it looks like he comes up, then he's gotta go down to the road. Where I would, you know, whether they do go back to the right of way and make it a kind of a, so you don't have that hump in there, but that was just one thing I kind of look at when I.
Change the transition.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. Wayne has the last name, same last name as I do.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get involved in that one. I can tell you that I know Wayne has reached out to project staff and they are going to go look at his driveway specifically. The other one that I know of for sure that they were going to review is the south driveway to the gas
I
station.
seen that too, that was the other one.
So, and Ken probably knows these answers. I think I was talking to Ryan and Preston is from the state, he's the DOT man. Ryan is the engineer consultant. We were talking about that driveway, and I think in the FDM, they talk about max 15%. And I'm like, well, do you look at the use that we're going to have here, 15% is not going to work. Well, it's not 15%. We think it's only about 9.
No,
I said, I can appreciate that, but 9 is still not going to work here for the use that's taking
so
place.
those boats going.
Think
down there,
about a
you'd be
boat
cracking
with a
front.
motor on it coming, traversing that. Yeah. Well, it wasn't, we had that discussion on a Tuesday meeting. It was last week. It was Tuesday morning that Sean called me and said, are you guys doing anything with, the driveway? He was out there meeting with Mizey on their race site. So they are going to look at that again, joint. But it is not something I'm going to say, do 20 feet.
No, I'm,
Did they,
I just kind of, I went down through there with the bike last week, and I was just looking at those. I thought, I would be saying something if it was me, but.
You're cruising on the path?
You might get a call from Chuck Carter too. He doesn't know, the incline is so steep to the gutter there that he doesn't know how he's gonna mow his lawn.
So not to get into too many specifics, but there's an area down at the south end of the project where there's curb along the bypass lane. The back slope there is relatively steep. We are graded to the right of way. Mr. Cart, the landowner would like us to place a retaining wall in there. That sounds really nice. However, the process to put a retaining wall in there is going to be more invasive than doing anything else, because in order for, if it were to be done through a DOT process, it's not, you're not gonna set a block on the dirt and say, there you go. There's going to be a footing that needs to be poured, and then that wall would be built. The trees are gone at that point. They're never going to make it. So I've offered to say, allow us to do more grading. Let us grade beyond the right of way. The contractor is not going to grade beyond the right of way in fear of damaging those trees. When I talked to Ryan about it, he had mentioned that, maybe we could do some slight more grading without impacting the trees. It's about a 2.5 to 1. It is pretty steep. It would be pretty steep. I talked to Ryan, about maybe like a tree ring in that area. I don't know if that would help. I asked that he reach out to Preston. I said, maybe he's got another idea. Maybe they've had to deal with it somewhere else. But to put a retaining wall in there through the DOT process, it's
Clear
going
zone.
to be not work. And
I
that
just-
was the thing that they brought
I
up.
just
right away.
directed him to you, and he asked me, I said, talk with Pat, and maybe you can get with the project.
Yep. And we have, Ryan and Mizey have met with them, and I don't know what other options we really have. We're not taking the curb out.
Well, we should not ignore them, that's what I was back to.
So I think I'm done now, unless there's other Z stuff.
Not on that section of Z, but farther up to the north, I was gonna ask. There's those storage buildings up on, I say by Old J,
I gotta go up there.
and I see, they're used the county right away for loading out, loading into the sand piles, and they got the county right away kind of tore up. You know,
It's great to launch back.
and then got the steel plates out there that I'm sure they were using to get around, but I just wondered if those people are gonna have to restore that that county right away.
I just noticed that one came home.
I will go look. You didn't notice any campers in that area, did you?
No. The campers out there? Oh, yes, right at Michael's land. They got them for sale right on the, sitting in the
Oh,
county
okay.
right away.
Right.
We got them right along the road there for sale.
Dusty color. So that one's mine.
What about,
Not my camper,
what,
it's my issue to control.
Yeah.
what about property stakes and subdivisions, you know, and all that, is that part of your deal too?
I don't have zero authority on it.
I can't believe that you called you this.
I think that's all.
Okay. We'll have to try and figure out a little bit with them snowmobile for the crossings too.
Oh, snowmobile trails on County Z, guys that brought up. I think we all remember the snowmobile trail used to parallel from the Z on the west side. I used to ride snowmobile a lot too.
I'm trying to get a hold of,
I'm not saying this to make anybody upset, but our road project, we build roads, not snowmobile trails.
you disturbed the snowmobile trail.
We did. disturb the snowmobile trail.
I'm not gonna give up on it, it's bad.
So I would possibly look at the east side.
I'll,
So
Jimmy and see if I can get.
I don't know if Mr. Bullis field and possibly, like you mentioned earlier, the transfer site, you know, there somewhere might work.
Yeah.
I don't,
I'll talk to Jimmy and Jimmy Schnorr.
Yeah. yes,
Try and go down there and see if I can find a couple of ways to get around something. Because he said he wasn't too concerned with it, but other than the ditches are so steep, he was afraid of trying to run the tractor and rumor down through it.
should be around.
All right, anybody have anything on the financial report?
Good, not good.